Hello, everyone, and welcome to Quail's Gate's virtual culinary experience. This is the second time that Adam and I have had a chance to do this virtual culinary cooking sensation, I'll call it. It was a lot of fun last time. But first off, for those that haven't joined us before, I'm Tony Stewart, one of the proprietors here at Quail's Gate Estate Winery. Very excited to do this event for you. It's a great opportunity for you to try some of the culinary delights from Old Vine's restaurant. So tonight we are going to do two new dishes. I know that first off, Adam Mukasa, who's been the executive sous chef here at Old Vines for 5 years now. Great talent, has worked in some of the best restaurants, Michelin star restaurants in Europe, worked alongside Gordon Ramsay and other notable chefs, is going to lead you through this culinary creation. And we're going to do it paired with some of our wines, some of our higher end wines. So we're going to do the 2014 Rosemary's Block Chardonnay. We've got the 2018 Richard's Block Pinot Noir, and then the 2017 Boswell Syrah. So first dish that we're doing here is going to be the seared scallops and corn soup.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to turn it over to Adam and let him tell you all about what we're doing. We are taking it a little bit slower this time based on feedback we got from the guests. We're going to pause a little bit more and allow you to ensure that you have all your ingredients prepped and ready to go before the event starts. So Adam, take it away.
Beautiful. Well, yes, welcome everyone. Happy holidays. As Tony said, we're having a scallop dish with a corn soup. Some nice fresh corn and turnip salsa will be in there, and some fresh hazelnuts, toasted hazelnuts to finish the dish. Should be picking up on those beautiful, rich Chardonnay notes from the Syrah we're going to enjoy. So yes, I will try and be a bit slower this week. So the first thing we're going to do, both the dishes we're going to do today are going to be focused on a family style setting. So for the holidays, for Christmas time, for sharing with family. So we'll start with the soup. Okay, we're going to start on a medium pan. We're going to add some olive oil. And then we're just going to start with the onions, straight in. And we're just going to let those sweat until they're translucent. And so we're going to be developing nice caramel flavors. We're going to release the sugar from the onions and just make that rich depth of flavor when we do eventually add the corn. And so it's really important here to get that caramelization happening and to get that initial cooking in the onions to really get that base flavor in your soup. A lot of chefs and a lot of cooks will lose that at the beginning, and it's such an important step. So really take your time, make sure your onions are nice and cooked, and we'll get some really nice flavors happening in our soup.
So you're looking to be translucent but not browning.
Yeah, we're just on the turn of browning for these.
On the turn.
Okay. If you do find yourself getting ahead and you have browned your onions, it's not the end of the world. You'll just have a bit of a more rich onion flavor, which isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Okay.
So it is a fresh soup. This is a minimal ingredient dish. So we are really looking for the flavors of what we're doing, what we're using are really going to pop. So nothing's going to be hidden away. So now our onions are starting to look nice.
Oh yeah.
So they're starting to go. We're getting a
good aroma.
Yeah, getting a really nice aroma on the onions now. So we're just going to add some of our corn, and then we're reserving some of the corn to make a fresh salsa. So we're still going to cook out our corn. Let that roast in the pan. And then we have chicken stock. Now, ideally, this is house made because we're in the restaurant here. You can use any stock you like. It can be beef stock, it can be chicken stock, it can be vegetable stock if you're a pescatarian or a vegetarian and you're not using the scallops. And failing that, you can always use water if there's nothing else available.
So you got to be mindful of what's going on here. You don't want to be walking away from this dish. Looks like you got to be right on top of it.
Got to be on top of this one, yeah, at the moment. This is a job that, if you have time to be ahead, you can do this the night before. We can have the soup blended up, ready to go, so that on the day of service, on the day of when your friends and family are here, then you just have to focus on cooking some scallops and just warming the soup up. So something you can definitely do ahead of time.
Whoop.
Corn's popping.
There we go, popcorn.
There's some stock in. So we're just going to let that come up to a simmer and cook away. And while we're waiting for that, I'm just going to bring in the reserved corn kernels that we had, some fresh turnip. Now in the recipe we say a medium turnip, it's a white turnip. Turnips come in all shapes and sizes, so I'm using it's kind of just over the size of a golf ball. So it doesn't have to be a huge guy. Just a small dice. Ideally, the dice are similar kind of size to the corn, and then we're going to mix that together. You're wanting about half turnip to corn, and you're going to season that with some olive oil and a little bit of vinegar.
And does it matter which vinegar you're using?
It doesn't matter. Overall, I like using sherry vinegar. If you don't have sherry vinegar, red wine vinegar is great. White wine vinegar also works. And any wine vinegar will work, really. If whatever you prefer the most will work. I personally like sherry. So we're just combining the corn and the onion and the turnips. Sorry. So we're going to season that with some salt. Just a little bit of salt. And this is just going to be a base of the dish. And we're just gonna hold this on the bottom of the bowl, and the scallops are going to sit on top. So very simple. It's just corn, turnips, olive oil, and salsa, and it's a little bit of vinegar. That's really going to give the dish some crunch. It's going to give the dish some acidity, and just a different texture, a different kind of bit of play in the dish.
Okay. Now I noticed the soup that you've got going there. You've got it on a full boil. You're looking to get a bit of a reduction there?
We're just reducing it, yes, just reducing a little bit. And then ideally all we're looking to do is cook the onions and the corn. So just until they're soft, you can sort of smush them on your tongue, or if you just put a spoon in there and they're completely soft. Once they're soft, then we're going to blend them.
Okay,
so we're getting nice and close now. So I'm just going to bring that down. So we have hazelnuts here. So I have them pre-toasted. They can be, if you're getting them whole, raw, you're just going to pop them in the oven, nice hot, high oven, 400 degrees Fahrenheit. I really recommend using a timer because these guys are very expensive and they're extremely easy to burn. So keep a timer on there, start off with a couple minutes and just keep checking it after a minute. You're just looking them to be golden brown. So I've just toasted them golden brown and lightly chopped them, so they're ready to go. You can buy them pre-toasted, and that's absolutely fine. And so into our scallops, we have some beautiful ocean-wise Canadian scallops here. Our local suppliers look after us very well. They're beautiful. I put a note in the recipe that if you have any abductors, so I have removed all of these ones, this is the abductor on the scallop. So if that's left over, if it is on there when you buy it, all you simply have to do is take that off and it just comes off just like that. So you won't be using that, and that's the scallop we'll be using. So if it does have the abductor, you can take it off. It's not.
And why do you do that?
It's just a textural thing. It's just not so pleasant to have it on there.
Okay, it's a little bit tough.
It's a little bit tough. Yeah,
okay.
I guess it's kind of a chefy move to remove that.
Right. Okay.
But
there you go.
we would always remove it. It's just that sinew on there. It's just a little bit tough.
Okay.
If you forget, it's not the end of the world.
Got it.
Yeah,
okay.
It's just a nice thing to do. So our scallops are beautiful and ready to go. We have our toasted hazelnuts. We have our little corn and turnip mixture. So we're ready now to just do some blending of the soup. So for that, I'm going to bring the blender over.
I'll move out of your way here.
So soup's just going to go into the blender. So once we have this in the blender, we would note that if you are at home and using a smaller blender that's maybe not professional, you can always let this soup cool down to room temperature, just for your safety. If you have a high grade quality blender, you can do it hot, but just keep some safety in mind. So I'm going to do it hot, but you're more than welcome to cool it down before you blend it yourselves. So the lid goes on. Now you are looking to try and make it as smooth as possible. So if you do have a slightly, not as sharp a blade on your blender, or if your blender's maybe a little bit older, just leave it in the blender just a couple minutes. The longer it's in there, the smoother it's going to get. So just have some patience and just let it go. I'm lucky enough to have a beautiful blender here, so it's nice and fast. So it's no problem. If it's not beautifully smooth, just a couple more minutes, and then you'll get a nice smooth soup. So I'm passing it through a sieve here. And it's just going straight back into the pan that I cooked it in. So at this point, if you had cooled your soup down, you'd have a medium heat soup now if you had cooled it down to start with. So that's fine, and that can stay in the pan. And we'll just get rid of these guys.
So no problem to make this soup in advance and be ready to go.
Absolutely
tonight.
not.
Okay.
So it's a nice way to go, especially for a dinner party, is if you have this made the night before, then it's a kind of peace of mind thing. You know it's ready to go. So when it comes to the night, you just have to focus on cooking the beautiful scallops. You can even make this little corn mixture the day before as well.
Okay.
It's not going to hurt it at all. So now we're going to work on cooking the scallops. So I've got a nice non-stick pan here. So we are going to keep our soup warm at this point. Because once we're cooking the scallops, things are going to happen pretty fast. So my soup is nice and hot. I have my bowls ready. I have my corn and turnip mixture, my hazelnuts and parsley. So this is everything for the dish now. So I'm just going to season the scallops with some salt.
And I mean, everything's smelling great now. It's really starting to take shape. We can see what's going on here.
Some olive oil in the pan. And now we're really not looking to overcook these. If you've got nice fresh scallops and you're comfortable from where you're getting them from, there's absolutely no problem serving these medium rare, which is what I'm going to be doing. If you prefer fish cooked further, you can cook them a bit longer. That's no problem whatsoever. So these have just been seasoned with salt. Got a nice hot pan.
There's a bit of an art to cooking the scallop, though, because if you go too far, it gets very tough.
It can get very tough and very rubbery, exactly, which is why I like to keep it a medium rare, personally. Just as long as you know your friends and family enjoy that too, that's not a problem.
So what's the trick to getting it just right?
So we're going to have a nice hot pan, as you see here. So we're going to develop color on our cooking surface. Once we've achieved that color on our cooking surface, we're going to have a little bit of butter, a quick toss, and they're ready. Okay. So we're cooking them very fast.
So it's going to go quick.
Yes, it's going to go quick.
Okay.
So we're going to go in now. It's nice to start your scallops at 12 o'clock and work our way around the outside. And that way you know which one comes out first. So you can see we're just developing color right now on the bottom. So we add our butter. And that's really going to caramelize in the pan.
Now I can see I already do a mistake. I melt the butter and then I put my scallops in. What's the rationale behind doing it later?
With the oil, I'm able to get a hotter surface in my pan. So before the butter burns. So you can see the butter now, we're going into a nice golden color. I don't want to burn my butter.
Got it.
So we're keeping it nice and golden brown. So we get a nice hot pan with oil, butter in, and then that's really going to caramelize and develop the color on the scallops. So there we got some nice, beautiful scallops. So just while we're letting those caramelize, in the bottom of the bowl, corn and turnips. And now we can see how fast the scallops, so they're nice and golden brown here. So we can turn those over. And then there's the butter on the pan. We can just scoop that butter over top.
Okay.
And then once we've achieved that,
So the butter's giving it that color.
the butter's giving it color, yeah. And then it will develop beautiful nutty flavors, which are going to play with the hazelnuts and ultimately the beautiful butteriness of the Chardonnay. That's all going to work really well. We have nice hot soup. And so we're going to go straight into plating. So 3 lovely scallops. Some hazelnuts. And then take your soup. And then you're just going to pour that around the scallops. Last touch, some beautiful fresh parsley. And there you have scallops, seared scallops with the corn soup, toasted hazelnuts, and fresh parsley.
Wow, you made it look so easy.
So, as we said before, making the soup ahead of time makes this from an elegant kind of a fancy dish. If you're able to make the soup ahead of time and make the corn and turnip mix ahead of time, it really is an easy process.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that most people really want, is that little bit of security and knowing that the soup's already made.
Ready to go.
I don't have to worry about that when my guests arrive at the house. And then, you know, the way you did it, the scallops, I'm not getting that color. So
Yeah.
obviously I'm missing the
Nice,
butter in there. And
a beautiful hot pan on the scallops, the oil, add your butter, get that golden brown, and don't forget, as we're speaking right now, the scallops are sitting in that boiling hot soup, so that they're actually cooking right now. So there's no problem in just getting that color on them, so they're golden brown. Even if you think they're a little bit undercooked, I do urge you to try them. I do encourage that, because they're delicious when they have that texture, and then not forgetting that they are cooking right now, because they're so delicate. They are still cooking, yeah.
So you've picked this with the 2014 Rosemary's Block Chardonnay. So we're dealing with a Chardonnay that's got a little bit of age here. A lot of people wonder about ageability of wines. Chardonnays generally will develop quite nicely, and I would think with this dish, with the nuttiness, that you're going to get the oak and the vanillins in the Chardonnay showing nicely.
Absolutely, yeah. And corn, yeah, as Quailsgate's one of our biggest pairings, so we always talk about the truffle popcorn. So here, we don't have truffle, we have the corn. We have the multiple textures of corn, and they're just going to go, so well with the wine, especially, and that nuttiness of the hazelnuts, and the nuttiness of the butter when we're cooking the scallops. Everything is going to work really well with that Chardonnay.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. And for our customers, just so you know, the latest Wine Line Awards came out, and Quailsgate got a hat trick with the Rosemary's Block getting a platinum, gold for the Stewart Family Reserve, and a silver for the Chardonnay Estate Select. So all 3 of our Chardonnays were in the top 25 wines there, which was great to see. Well, great, Adam. Excellent job there. Thank you. We're going to take a few minutes to just get prepped for the next dish. We've got the roast chicken with pan-fried vegetables, and it's going to be another family-style dish, so that you can serve this with over the holidays if you like. And yeah, we'll just take a few minutes to get ready. So just stay tuned, and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. This is the second piece of our virtual culinary experience here for the holidays. First course looked amazing. I'm looking forward to trying that shortly. we're moving on to the next course here that Adam's done up. And as we mentioned, it's paired with the 2018 Richards Block Pinot Noir. It's going to be roast chicken, the risotto, which the art of risotto is going to be explained, the secrets of cooking this, done with some pan-roasted yams and squash.
Carrots and squash. Yep.
Carrots and squash.
Yep.
And then the arugula salad. So this is going to be a great dish, and I'm going to be looking forward to learning these tricks. So Adam, take it away.
Alrighty. So yeah, we have a nice family-style meal. The recipe can look quite large and then lots of ingredients, but really it's a pretty simple recipe. The idea is it's, again, a family-style meal, and it should be nice and easy for you to put together and have as a group and to enjoy with as limited stress for you, the cook, as possible. So we're starting with roast chicken, and then we'll go into the risotto. We'll finish with the salad. So I've got a really nice, beautiful free-range chicken here. One of our great suppliers, Two Rivers, helps us out with these. Depending on how many you're cooking for, in the recipe I've grabbed a really large chicken, ideally serving 4 people. So if you're maybe serving more people, obviously grab some more chickens. So yeah, depending on how many you're cooking for. So all we're going to need for this chicken is a nice hot oven at 400 degrees. If you can bring the chicken out of the fridge for 30 minutes before cooking it, just to slowly bring that up, it's really good. And all we're going to do is season it with some olive oil and some sea salt. And then that's going to go in the oven at 400 degrees for 1 hour and 20 minutes. So I've cheated here. I've got one ready to go. And so what you're going to do once it's come out at 1 hour and 20 minutes, you're just going to pull that chicken out. It's going to be covered with tin foil and a tea towel, which is really going to insulate it. And we'll just put that to the side, and we'll come back to that later. As that chicken rests, the juices are just going to distribute between the bird, and we're going to have a really tender, nice piece of meat, whether it's from the leg or from the breast. So that's ready to go sitting.
So that lets the juices kind of move back into the bird?
It's just going to relax. Everything about the meat itself, from the legs to the breast, everything's going to relax, and we're just going to get a much more tender piece of meat. And the juices are going to, you'll notice that if you cut a piece of meat that's extremely hot, the juices will instantly come out. So what we're going to do is just going to allow that bird to rest. The juices are going to cool down slightly. So when it does come to carving it, the juices are going to stay within the bird itself. So we'll have a nice, juicy, tender piece of meat. So that's the goal for that.
Fantastic.
So that's sitting ready to go. So the recipe says root vegetables. It can be any root vegetable. Whatever is your favorite root vegetable, this recipe is going to work for that really well. I have some beautiful squash and carrots. Jordan at Unearth Farms has grown these for us, and they're just beautiful. We're just going to season them with olive oil and salt. And they're going to go in a nice hot oven in a roasting pan for 15 to 20 minutes. We just want them nice, still have a little bit of bite to them, al dente. And just be careful, when you are prepping them, you'll notice that even though they're the different vegetables and technically different sizes of carrots, they're all cut to the same thickness. So that way they're evenly going to cook. You're not going to have a mushy carrot and a raw piece of squash. Right, or if you're going to use, say, a parsnip and a piece of celeriac, make sure they're cut all the same way. That way you get nice, even cooking throughout your vegetables. So that they're just going to take 20 minutes. So they'll probably be about the same time as it's going to take us to cook this risotto. So yeah, we're going to get straight onto that. So ideally I have a kind of a perfect pan for risotto. It has a nice wide open bottom, and it's not such a high pan, so it's perfect to be able to see in there and stir evenly. And then I have my chicken stock, which has been preheated, so it's nice and hot. And that's ready to go. This can be, if you rather use beef stock, you can. Chicken stock's perfect, white or roasted. And again, if you don't have that, then worst case scenario, you can use water or vegetable stock. So veggies are going to go in. And so
Adam and I had a little chat beforehand about risotto and the tricks to making it, and I learned something new, which you're going to explain. So
yeah, every family and every chef I've worked with has their own way of cooking risotto. This is just the way I like it. If you have a secret grandma's special way of cooking risotto, then you can probably cook it that way. I won't be offended. But the way I'm starting, so I'm putting the olive oil in the pan. and I'm starting with my rice. So I'm just keeping that on a medium heat. I don't want it too hot because you be careful, but I am looking to color this rice. So it's going to start sizzling and it's going to start cooking, and we are going to start to see some color developing on the rice, and that's exactly what I want. A lot of other chefs will start with their onions first, which is also okay. But just for this dish, as Tony said, we're pairing it with a beautiful Pinot Noir, getting that lovely caramelized aromas. It's going to be golden brown. You're going to get that nuttiness develop in the rice. It's just another level of flavor and complexity to add to the risotto. So hopefully,
and because we're doing the red wine, you decided to do it this way. But you said if you were doing it with fish, you would probably not do it this way.
Absolutely, yeah. If I was going to do it with fish or a vegetarian course, which of course is absolutely fine for Christmas too, I'd probably keep the rice just white. I wouldn't do it. So just to get that richness and that depth of flavor for the Pinot Noir, I'm just doing this. So it does take a little bit of time to get the heat into the rice, but it is best to take your time at this stage, because there's nothing worse than getting up to temperature too fast and then you have black rice very quickly and then you have to start again. So we are, like I said, we are looking for a nice golden brown color.
Yeah, it's looking gaining a little bit of color, and
It's just slowly, yeah. So you will, as it is now starting to cook, you're going to start getting toasted nuts, ricey kind of flavors.
Okay.
And smells, aromas even. And the other beautiful thing about the with risotto is you have to give it love constantly. From all this recipe so far, this is the only thing when you're making this part of the recipe, you have to focus 100% of your attention on this part of the recipe. You got to keep stirring it and be faithful to it. Don't leave it alone. If you want to walk away and come back, you're often run yourself into trouble. So with the risotto, just keep watching it, keep stirring it. And I'm just going to turn it down now because it's already, I can see this going a little bit too fast. So I'm just going to keep it going, keep stirring it. The color, once the color starts happening, it generally will happen very fast. So we want to make sure that you're ready for that. So we're ever so slightly, we're just getting some color in the pan, just now.
Just doing the smell test, with the Pinot and the risotto cooking there, getting those aromas coming across.
So yeah, now we're at the stage, you can hear that crackle and you can hear that pop. So we are going to develop some colors. And try and keep your rice moving and try and keep it flat as you can, so you don't have any hot spots and you don't have any empty spots in the pan, which will also cause a bit of burning, which we don't want. So now try and keep it nice and flat and nice and even and just constantly moving.
And no multitasking.
Unfortunately, not really, no. Minimal multitasking at this point, but I mean, we are cooking the chicken and the vegetables right now.
You are, yes.
So technically we are multitasking.
Just don't run to the cellar at this point and pick out another bottle of wine.
Absolutely. So now you're kind of seeing, we have developed a bit of color in there now. I'm still going to go a little bit more. But you can kind of smell.
Oh, wow.
You are developing some aromas with it,
Yeah.
so it may seem a bit tedious to start with, but as you develop these smells,
you said nutty, and it's just like so. Yeah, it's so clearly the nuts, roasted nuts,
and it's just the right. So we're just looking to develop that color. And so I'm not sure if you can see it. So we are quite quickly changing color at this point. So I'm looking quite happy with this now. If I can kind of give a contrast of, just give you a contrast of the salt So they would have been fairly similar colors at the beginning there. So you can kind of see we've got some nice golden brown colors going on. So at this point, we're going to go in with the onion. Onions are going in, and you can hear that nice sizzle. And then I have kept my garlic separate because it does tend to burn quickly in the pan.
Yeah.
So I'll add that just at the end so it won't, because they're really looking to get that roasting going on now in the pan. So at this point we're just looking to get the onions cooked till they're translucent. So they're really not going to take too long. And we're just adding extra flavor now to the rice. Okay. We already have that, as you said, that nice nutty aroma and flavors that's in the rice, which is great. And so now we're just adding more complex flavors with the onions.
Yeah, those onions cooked up quite quickly in there, I guess from the heat of the rice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
And so we are still coloring our rice as this is happening. So I'm now going to add my garlic. And again, being careful to keep continuously stirring. So yeah, if we leave it for too long still, it's gonna burn. But the good news is up to this point, now we can relax a little bit. So now we've developed that golden brown color. We've developed some extra flavors that we had before with just plain rice. So we're already kind of at a head start right now. So now we're adding 250 ml of white wine.
And which wine was that, just so we know? That was the Quailsgate Estate Select Chardonnay?
That is Quailsgate Select Chardonnay.
Okay.
But it can be...
You want a dry white wine?
You want a dry white wine. It could be any white wine. I mean, if you don't want to waste a high price point wine on cooking, of course, reserve that for cooking and reserve that for drinking and buy a cheaper white for cooking. Yep. That's no problem. But it's no problem. Cool. As long as you have a dry white, then it's fine. So you can see the white wine is completely reduced, and it really doesn't take long for it to reduce out. And so you can see the bottom of the pan is nice and dry. And so we really want to see that. We want the alcohol to cook out. We don't want any bitter flavors from that. So now we're at the stage where we can start adding stock, which again is hot. I've preheated the stock. And to start with, just add enough to cover the rice. So we're just covered. And again, we can turn it down just ever so slightly at this point. Just down, and we're just going to let that simmer. So we don't have to be quite so careful at this point. If we did need to run to the cellar and grab a glass of wine, we can do right now. Okay. But ideally, you can't stir this too much. So just keep stirring, keep stirring, keep stirring. And what you're going to do is develop starches from the rice and develop that creaminess. So you're really going to develop that creaminess, the risotto, from now. So, and if the earlier you can start doing that in the beginning and just get those starches developing, it's a really good thing to do.
So those people that are following along with this at home, how are you cooking this now by time? Or are you just kind of keeping an eye on it, or you're going to taste it, or what's your plan? I'm
going to be tasting it, but I'm going to be keeping an eye on it. So I want to keep the liquid levels to about where they are right now.
Okay.
So once they reduce to a point where you can almost see like a layer of dry rice, I'm going to add some stock on top. Okay. And then let that cook whilst keep stirring, keep stirring, keep stirring. And then when it gets to around the 10-minute mark, then I'll start tasting.
Right.
Taste for flavor, of course.
Okay.
But also you're going to taste the texture of the rice.
Sure.
Which is another interesting point in risotto, because a lot of people like different textures on the rice. Some people like it a little more al dente side. Some people like it very soft. So again, depending on how you personally like it, I'll make it that way. I like it quite soft with a little bit of bite to it personally.
Okay.
So there we can see that that's reduced. So we can see now. So it's difficult. So I'm tilting. You can see there's quite a lot of liquid in there. But when the dish is flat, you can see that there's some rice sticking on the top. So I'm just going to add a little bit more stock.
So with the stock, it's more about keeping the consistency of the levels of liquid to the rice,
Exactly.
making sure the top doesn't dry out. You shouldn't be too concerned about maybe using a little too much or a little too little cooking stock.
Better to be on too much than too little.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't want to be too far ahead because then
Right.
we'll be making a soup at the end.
Yeah,
so we definitely want to reduce it enough so we have a ricey consistency at the end.
Okay.
But you definitely would rather have it to be a little bit at this stage. You'd rather it wetter than drier.
Okay.
Because then once we go into that dry area, we're back into a very good chance of burning. So
All right.
yeah, definitely like to keep it nice and wet. So you keep stirring.
Yeah, the aromas are just starting to come out now and really take shape.
And so an easy thing to do now is we can just organize a plate for our salad. So really straightforward salad. We have fresh arugula and then a vinaigrette, which is just mustard, olive oil, and sherry vinegar, or red wine vinegar, whichever you prefer. And you can get this ahead of time. It's nice and easy. So the olive oil, the mustard, and the vinegar. So essentially that's my dressing. I'm just going to get that all mixed up in the bowl, sorry. You can do this in a mixing bowl, but I like to do it, and this is the plate I'm going to serve it in. Just go straight in. And then when it does come time to serve, all I have to do is quickly toss the salad, and it's ready to go. It's just something to get us ahead of time. Just to try and make it as easy as possible for you guys at home. Go back to the rice, keep stirring. And so what we're going to be flavoring the risotto with, so we have our butter, we have our cheese, parmesan, and kale. So we are adding a lot of dairy.
All right. Okay.
But it's Christmas time, so we all deserve it.
Right, none of the calories count at Christmas.
Exactly. They just vanish. If you do have an allergy or you are slightly intolerant, then you can always remove some of this dairy. So our rice is now starting to really get there. Just a little bit more stock. Okay, so we've been cooking the rice for about 5 to 10 minutes now. It's starting to look really good. You'll notice physically that the rice has just started to puff ever so slightly. So that's a good indication that it's cooking, and it's almost ready to go. So I'm just going to give it a quick taste. And so at this stage, I'm not really tasting it for flavor. I'm tasting it for whether the rice is cooked or not. So I'm just taking a small amount of rice there, and you can see how it's puffing a little bit.
So
it's puffing up. The taste is there. And right now, it's just al dente. So we're looking really good.
And the aromatics are changing a little bit.
They are, yeah.
Getting more intense.
We're getting more intense. As the chicken stock has reduced a little bit and it's intensified, you get the flavors from the chicken stock.
Okay.
I've got a really beautiful roasted brown chicken stock. So that's helping. And yeah, that nuttiness that we had at the beginning is really helping. So yeah, we're doing well. It's also great to know that if you are doing this ahead of time, you can get to this point, cool the rice down. Ideally, you put it on a tray that's as flat as possible, so you can cool it as quickly as possible. That way, on the day of the night, you can put it back in a pan, and it won't overcook because we're a little bit undercooked right now. And then we just finish by adding these elements to the dish. So you can do this part ahead if you are ahead of the game. If you're doing it as with me right now, then that's no problem whatsoever. So I'm just going to turn it down just because we are almost 3/4 of the way through. I'm going to add just a little bit more stock. And so if we can just see the consistency there. We can just see the consistency of the rice. So there's still a good amount of stock in there. Just like that. So the heat can come right down. And then we can focus on some of the other elements of the dish. So we have our chicken ready, of course. Our salad just needs to be tossed. Our roasted vegetables. And so once they come out of the oven, we're just going to season with salt and maple syrup. They're ready to go.
Canadian maple syrup from Quebec.
Canadian, exactly.
There we go.
That's where it's from. And like I said, you can use any vegetable that is what you prefer. Any root vegetable is perfect.
Yeah, the maple syrup gives it a nice aromatic as well with the roasted vegetables behind there.
So with this chicken, as it's rested, I am just going to remove the legs. One leg. And if you're able to, you can see where the thigh and the drumstick goes. You can just go straight down the middle there. So we have 2 drumsticks, 2 thighs. So we have the thigh from the drumstick. So our 2 beautiful thighs, 2 drumsticks. The wing can come off. And then we're just going to move the rests. So you're just going to cut along the backbone. And then you're going to bring the knife and follow the rib cage. Breasts. That's perfect. And now our rice. We're at perfect consistency now. Just remove this. So now we're going to start adding the healthy stuff. So butter's going to go in. Our cheese. And then we're really getting that creamy consistency now. You can see that consistency we're getting with the rice. And now if you get to this point and you say if your rice is really it's dry, you don't be afraid, we can always add more stock. And if you do add stock, and if you get to the point where you've added a little bit too much stock, that's not a problem. You can just let it reduce down, just let it cook. As long as you have stopped and paused, as we did earlier when we got to the 3/4 point, we shouldn't be too worried about overcooking the rice really. So if it is a little bit too wet, then you can just let the heat do its thing and it will reduce the liquid out. And so you can see there that golden brown color in the rice, and that's all down to at the beginning point where we toasted it.
Right.
So lastly kale goes in, chopped parsley, and we can turn the heat off at this stage. So I'm just going to start plating.
So you didn't mix that in yet. You're going to leave that.
I'm just going to leave that to sit for a little. Yeah, let the rice cool a bit. So we're just going to plate our roasted vegetables. So they're just being seasoned nice and hot. Salt, maple syrup. We've got that sweet and sour, lovely root vegetable earthiness. Gonna be great with the Pinot. Super easy.
Oh, looking great.
That's number one. So the salad, which we had the dressing ready earlier. So now all we need to do right now, you just toss the greens. And we have salads. For that guy. And for the chicken. So the rice has just cooled down slightly now. I'm going to stir in our herbs. It's starting to smell great. That parsley is just fantastic. And so if you can see the consistency I've got here, so it's nice and creamy. There's not too much liquid left, but obviously you can tell it's not dry. So we're just going to taste now for salt. Needs a little bit of salt. And then into our pan. There's our risotto. And then we can just add all of our chicken. Have the legs, the wings, the thighs, some breasts. Of course, you can chop the breasts up, so everyone can choose which they would like. So ideally, you have a nice family-style meal, and it should pair perfectly with the Pinot Noir.
Fantastic. You know, when you cook and you smell the wines, it is really when you start to understand that magic between the aromas of the wine and food, and why that's so important. A lot of times you'll smell a wine and you'll be like, okay, I can smell something there. But once you get in the kitchen setting and then you start smelling, I mean, you really do get the complexity of the wine coming through a lot more. It's a lot more prevalent. So this will be an interesting pairing for everyone to try. I know the Richards Block is in very limited supply, and it's a nice one to have over the holidays because, as we say, it's for special occasions. And hopefully, though everyone is having a tougher time at this Christmas than they have in previous years, we're hoping that you're having a chance to enjoy a little bit of Quail's Gate with these great foods. So we're looking forward to go try these in the dining room.
Absolutely. Hello team, welcome back. We're now in the Stewart family room. Tony's had to pop out, but we do have Anthony Chalmers here, who is a Quail's Gate estate sommelier, who is more than qualified to walk us through these couple of dishes. So we have the two dishes in front of Anthony: the scallop with corn, the cornage, the scallops, corn and turnip salsa, and then some fresh toasted hazelnuts. And then the main course, so just got him a plate here. So he has the risotto, the chicken, and the salad. So Anthony can just guide you through a quick tasting with the Chardonnay, a beautiful Stewart family reserve Chardonnay, and then we'll move to the chicken.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much. I feel like I'm joining you at your dinner table, and I hope you're enjoying a glass of this Rosemary's Block 2014 Chardonnay with me. This wine is so complex, and this food is so delicious. I watched it as it's being made. I can't wait to try this and sort of analyze it myself with you. But I hope you're sitting down, hope you're enjoying, and if you're still finishing things up, I'll try not to talk too fast, but I tend to do that naturally. So, 2014, a great vintage for our Chardonnays, great vintage in general. It's very balanced, perfect sunshine, perfect rainfall. It was my first season here. I remember quite well. The wines that are produced there are just incredible. And this Rosemary's Block Chardonnay is just bursting with flavor right now. 2012 is drinking really well as well, but the 2014 that we're having tonight, I'm diving in. So with this dish, corn, Adam was talking about popcorn and Chardonnay, truffled popcorn and Chardonnay as well when he was cooking. This is a perfect combination, but combine that with the hazelnuts, which sort of brings out the hazelnut, this nuttiness in the wine itself. An unbelievable combination. And these are toasted hazelnuts as well. So I'm just going to give this a little go. If you have any questions along the way, I think towards the end we're going to be answering questions. They'll be recorded, so feel free to ask. And as you do this too, what I recommend you do is take a sip of your wine first. Take some food, take a second sip of your wine with the food in your mouth. Allow the two to marry on your palate. There's a textural component here too, because it's just so rich combined with the scallops. These are Pacific Ocean scallops.
Absolutely, ocean-wise, Pacific scallops, yeah.
Just a nice texture to them. Go ahead.
And then, yeah, just saying, as I was cooking it, I was really kind of forcing the element of really making sure you're cooking them nice and rare, because you've got a nice hot soup, a nice warm bowl. We want to keep them nice and medium rare, as Anthony's enjoying here, and just to add that extra textural element with the creaminess of the soup with the scallops, and again, the creaminess of the Chardonnay itself. Yeah.
It's an excellent combination. I hope you're enjoying this at home as well. It's so good.
It's beautiful.
So good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Shall I go on to the chicken dish?
Let's move on.
Yep.
Yeah, I think unless we have any questions on the... Not so far? No? Perfect. Well, hopefully, as Anthony said, hopefully you were all enjoying.
Where did the hazelnuts go?
Where did they go?
Where did they go in the dish?
So I just toasted them. I toasted them in the oven, hot oven, until they're golden brown. So I had them completely separate, and then they're just sprinkled over the top right at the end. If you have already put them in, it's not going to be too much of an issue. It's just nice to put them on top so they're still fresh and a little bit dry, and to get that nice crunch. But they could easily go in with the salsa if you wish. But yeah, just over the top to finish.
Okay. I just realized I have to grab a glass. I'll be right back.
Okay. So yeah, so that'll be. We're on to the second course now. So the chicken, so the roasted chicken, the risotto, which again we toasted that rice to start with, just to really try and emphasize the nuttiness on the rice to just help develop the flavors with the Pinot. And then the fresh salad, nice and easy to put together, just fresh arugula, a nice mustard vinaigrette, the red wine vinegar, and that nice sharp flavors to cut through some of the fattiness and the richness of that risotto, and hopefully to pair in well with the Pinot.
One of the questions we had was, can you save the stock after you made the risotto, the excess stock?
You can save it, yes. Ideally, you brought it to a boil, so it's nice and hot. You can save it and you can reuse it. Cool it quickly, and then keep it in the fridge. Once you've done that, you'd want to use it within 3 days, and then get rid of it. Failing that, you could freeze it if it is fresh stock. Again, cool it down quickly and then freeze it, and then it's good to use when you pull it out. Yep.
Could you repeat the question because they can't hear me?
So that question, sorry, was whether or not you can keep stock after you've cooked your risotto. So the answer is yes, you can keep it. Ideally, keep it in the fridge and use it for something else. Put it in a nice, beautiful soup you can make on these cold nights, or it can be just added to almost any dish, really. But yeah, if not, you can cool it down quickly and freeze it for another time.
Okay. So we're going to go on to this next dish, and funny though, with the food, it's a combination of not just the food, but what is added to the food that influences the wine too. So with the salad off the start, we've got a mustard in here, we've got an olive oil in here, we've also got a red wine vinaigrette. The vinegar is going to take down the perception of astringency in this 2018 Richards Block Pinot Noir, but the mustard is an irritant. It's going to irritate your taste buds and sort of elevate it too. So you have a great balance here happening, which is going to make this wine taste very smooth and balanced too. Same thing happens with your vegetables. They're roasted, but you have some maple syrup on top. But you also have, what's the second ingredient in there? You have
It was maple syrup and just olive oil, and then that was it.
some salt.
Well,
a little bit of
yes,
salt on top.
yes,
So
absolutely.
the salt is also something that'll pull down the astringency, perception of astringency in the wine. But then the maple syrup is the sugar. Sugars tend to increase the perception of astringency, so it's a great balancing act there as well. The toasted risotto, this is going to bring out the earthiness in this Pinot Noir. And this Pinot Noir and the Chardonnay are both done in the Burgundian style. So this is just a fantastic dish to match with these wines. So fantastic. I'm going to just start with some of the risotto. I'm going to first try my wine. And this is our present wine. This is the wine that you should be drinking right now. 18 was an odd vintage, a cooler vintage because of the smoke that happened during the month of August.
And I'm just going to jump in there. Just at the end of the show, we had a question about kale, and so it is in fresh at the end. The kale's not been blanched; it's a fresh leaf. If it's a larger, wholer, fuller leaf, I would recommend removing the stalk. I was able to use just fresh young leaves, so I've kept them whole, stalk in. But yeah, if you have got the older ones, which is absolutely no problem. Just remove the stalk and give them a nice cut, and they'll be good to go. And yeah, they are stirred in raw at the end, and ideally the heat, kind of similarly to the scallops with the soup. The heat of the risotto itself, as you stir that in, is going to cook the kale just to al dente, just hopefully to keep it have a little bit of bite. Again, as another textural element to the dish.
Beautiful. With the risotto too, the addition of Parmesan into the dish really softens this wine too, because you have salts, proteins, uncoagulated fats, and all of those bring that Pinot Noir down. It's quite full-bodied for a cooler vintage, but it's marrying and blending so well with all these components and how they all interact with each other. What we want here is a 1 + 1 = 3. You've got it here. It's perfect. It's beautiful.
Well, great. I'm glad you're enjoying that so much.
You want some?
Well, we're not allowed to share right now. We're not
Kidding.
allowed. That wouldn't be COVID friendly.
So the question is, why the tea towel on the chicken?
So the question, tea towel on the chicken. Now, this is an old grandmother trick, and it works fantastically well. So firstly, you have to have tin foil. So chicken, tin foil, and then a tea towel. You can even use a bath towel. Multiple tea towels is actually better. So what you're doing is you're insulating the bird itself, and it's going to stay nice and hot. So what we're doing is we're resting the bird, but we don't want it to be cold. So the tin foil and the tea towel is insulating it, allowing the heat to stay within the bird, and as it's doing that, it's resting. So we're doing two things at the same time. So really, it's all about insulating the bird to make sure that we get a nice hot rest. So that ideally, as you're eating the chicken itself, it should be really delicate. It should be extremely tender, and it should not be dry. Especially a lot of cooks will have a tender leg and there'll be a drier breast, whereas that basically means the bird's not being rested. So that it should be tender throughout.
So juicy.
Yeah, it's such an easy technique to do, and you should be able to do it at home too. Everyone has a tea towel.
Nice.
And do you add the 2 liters of stock? Like, do you have to add the full 2 liters?
So a question on how much stock to add to the risotto. So that's a kind of a difficult question to answer, because it all depends on which rice you're using. Some rice is thirstier than other rice. So in this example, I didn't use the full 2 liters. In the restaurant, throughout the seasons, we will get different brands of rice. In the restaurant, we always use Carnaroli rice, but brands will be changing as seasons go on. And between brand to brand, sometimes the rice becomes a little bit more, a little bit less thirsty. So it's just something, if you add it ladle at a time, as I was doing, continuously stirring, and it's just something you can taste as you go. Once you've achieved a rice consistency that you personally like, stop. If that means you've used all the 2 liters, great. If you've only used 1 liter, then that's also great. And if you have used the 2 liters and it's still a little bit tough for your palate, you can always grab some more chicken stock, and a last resort, water can be used at that stage. But ideally, have a little bit more chicken stock.
And when is the best time to add salt? During cooking or close to the end?
So a question on adding salt. Personally, I add salt the whole way through. So for this entire dish, everything was seasoned before I started cooking. So that was from the chicken, the vegetables. I seasoned my salad dressing, and then I seasoned you can season the rice as it's toasting. And then again, it's a chefy thing to do, but to taste as you're cooking is something I recommend. I can't recommend that enough. Just always taste, and at the process, at the point at which you're tasting, if you believe it needs more salt, add more salt right then. That's not a problem at all. Be careful. Well, the one thing I would say is be careful. Don't season your chicken stock, because it's easy for the chicken stock to reduce and the salt will intensify, and then that can misbalance your dish. But there's also, if it's okay to cook and then season at the end. But taste, and season along with that.
And we got asked if someone is allergic to scallops, what else could you recommend for the dish?
So a question about allergies, specifically scallops. So if it is just a scallop allergy, any shellfish would work amazingly with the Chardonnay. I'd say any shellfish. Lobster tails would be great. Crab would be great. Scampi would be great. If it is a shellfish allergy, then you could move into a protein. Something like a chicken would be good, but obviously you wouldn't want to double up the chicken. So you could just keep it vegetarian and just completely skip the scallop. Have a few more hazelnuts and just more salsa, more turnips and more corn. You could even roast a piece of corn and have a roasted piece of corn on top, or even a roasted turnip would be just as nice.
And then for people who can't get fresh poultry and they're defrosting it, do they need to do anything in advance?
So a question about defrosting meats. So yes, I 100% recommend you completely defrost the bird before you start cooking. I also recommend bringing the bird out of the fridge and bringing it to room temperature for about half an hour before you do cook it. So yeah, if you are buying frozen meat, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Just make sure it is fully defrosted before you cook it.
Someone's asking you, Adam, if you cook at QG restaurant.
Someone's asked if I cook at Quail's Gate, and yes, I certainly do. Yeah, you'll see me in the kitchen almost every day.
And can you talk about the Syrah?
Sorry?
Syrah.
The Syrah, yes. Would you like to guide our guests through the Syrah?
Well, we can go through the Syrah, absolutely. So this is one of the wines that we're considering this a wine of the future. 2017 was a spectacular year. This wine is going to age so well. But the beauty of it too is it drinks really well right now. I didn't bring a corkscrew. So I can't guide you through it with me tasting it and describing it to you. However, you can do it right now at home. This wine is, 17 was a hot year, but the advantage of this actual vineyard block is it's right down by the lake. So the lake has a moderating effect on the grapes. So although it was a hot year and there were lots of fires in 17, the moderating effect of the lake kept that block very cool, resulting in this beautiful body. It's got 10% Viognier in it as well, 18 months in French oak. It is smooth, it is soft, it is supple. I describe this wine as being velvety. This one actually just won in a Canadian National Wine Awards, the top Syrah in Canada. There's a beauty.
There you go. Yeah.
So you could finish your chicken dish with your Pinot Noir and get into this one afterwards. That's what I'd recommend. It's just an unbelievable wine. But if you don't want to open this now, it's going to age beautifully for, I'd say, a good 8 to 12 years as well.
Okay, and the last of the questions, can you substitute different wine for the Chardonnay or the red? Like, can you do different varietals?
Yep, so a question on wine pairing for these two dishes. I guess we'll probably both have answers for this. So for the appetizer, I mean, I recommend almost any fresh dry white that Quail's Gate offers. Chenin Blanc would be delicious with this. Our dry Riesling would also be nice. That would be kind of the direction I would go. I'm not sure if you would change anything.
I agree with Chenin Blanc 100%. But go for rather than the estate Chenin Blanc, go for the Clone 220 fermented in concrete eggs. Has this creamy textural component to it too, similar to the SFR Chardonnay and the Rosemary's Block Chardonnay as well.
And that creaminess also.
The creaminess just matches so well with the creaminess of the soup itself.
Yeah. And then onto the chicken. The chicken itself wouldn't necessarily have to be paired with a red. You probably ideally would, but you could go along the white route. You could go with our Cabernet Sauvignon.
You could. Or if it happened that as you were cooking, your wines were depleting faster than you were getting to your dishes, you could crack your Syrah and enjoy it with that.
Sure.
Okay, final question is, can you substitute turkey for the chicken in the dish?
A question asking if you can substitute turkey. Yes, you can. Absolutely, you can. If you're really a turkey fan, you're getting into that Christmas spirit, then yes, turkey would work. Change cooking temperatures and times. You're going to have to cook that bird a lot longer, but you can still use the same technique. Cover it with the tin foil, cover it with a tea towel, and let that bird rest a long time. For a large bird like a turkey, I allow mine at home to rest for at least 35 to 40 minutes. And it's the size of the bird's going to stay nice and hot. And again, you shouldn't have dry turkey, and it'll be beautifully tender all the way through. So yes, you definitely can substitute turkey.
And a final wine question for you, Anthony. How long do you recommend aging the Pinot and the Rosemary's Chardonnay?
Yeah. So a question about aging the Rosemary's Block Chardonnay and the Richard's Block Pinot Noir, both from very good vintages and vintages that are capable of aging for quite some time. So sometimes the time is important. Sometimes the way it is stored is even more important. So Proper wine storage fridge is not essential, but where you want to put them is somewhere dark, somewhere cool, somewhere that doesn't have vibration. Don't keep them on top of your fridge. As I said, I tried the 2012 Rosemary's Block Chardonnay last summer, 2 summers ago, in 2019, I should say. It's tasting beautifully, but it still has another 4 or 5 years ahead of it as well. So they're aging beautifully, and they're done in the Chablis style, French style. The Pinot Noirs, 18, cooler vintage, but Pinot Noir loves cool vintages too. So you look back to 2010, 2011, great vintages of Pinot Noir. They're drinking well right now. So that's 9, 10 years. So for the 2018, 2028, 2029, which seems so far away. But to really appreciate these wines, give them some time. Buy 2 bottles, seriously.
Yeah, buy 2, buy 3, drink 1, drink 2, and then 1 sit.
Yeah, and once you get to that 5-year mark, try 1. 7-year mark, try 1. You may realize that these still have potential. But the only shame in aging wines too long is they go past that curve, and you've wasted some time and anticipating this beautiful end product.
Okay, beautiful. Well, thank you very much. Thank you to Anthony for stepping in. Beautiful. And thank you to all you guys. I hope you enjoyed these recipes this evening. Happy eating, happy holidays, and cheers.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you.